since Friday, I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Okay.
And I haven't been holding anything up at this point. It's been compensation that the Packers are trying to get for me and kind of digging their heels in.
Ever since this moment, everyone and their mother is weighing in on the heated debate. Who has the leverage? Clearly, there can be no middle ground. Why would everyone be talking about it if there wasn't a clear and obvious answer? But, what is that answer? Well, let's lay out both sides, and then I'll give you my opinion. From the Packers' perspective, Bobby Saleh is entering into his third year as head coach of the New York Jets, and has missed the playoffs in each of his past 2 seasons. Joe Douglas is entering into what is effectively his 4th season as the GM of the Jets, but it's technically his 5th season. This is because he was hired in the offseason before the 2019 season. If we exclude the 2019 season, his record as Jets GM is 13-37. If we include the 2019 season, his record is 20-46. Not really much better. This is basically to say that the decision makers in the Jets organization are on the hot seat. If they don't have a playoff season, they risk being fired. Fortunately for them, though, they have a pretty well-rounded roster that is considered by many to be a quarterback away from a playoff run and potential Super Bowl berth. But unfortunately for them, they don't have that quarterback. The only quarterbacks on the roster right now are the MILF Slayer himself, Zach Wilson, and Grey Cup champion Chris Streveler. Do those seem like good options to you?
Thank you.
Well, thank God free agency is full of great options such as Teddy Business Decision, the GOAT himself, Nathan Peterman, and everybody's favorite quarterback, Trace McSorley.
I'm your favorite quarterback, they call me Trace McSorley.
Jokes aside, there's really no realistic options left at quarterback. They hypothetically could go after Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill, but those are not really feasible options. Another factor that weighs in the Packers' favor is that Woody Johnson is pushing this deal very heavily. This is not the typical Joe Douglas type move, and it is clear that Woody Johnson is trying to make things happen. This means that if Joe can't get it done, he will not look good to his boss. On the flip side, fans already know that Rodgers wants to go to the Jets and expect him to be a Jet. Jets fans haven't seen a playoff appearance in 12 years, which is the longest playoff drought in the NFL. And having Rodgers fall right through their lap when the team appears to be a quarterback away will be just another one in a long line of embarrassing Jets moments. If they don't get him, people are going to point to the GM, who is already on the hot seat, and they're going to claim that it was his fault that they were not able to get it done. Lastly, the Jets have already made personnel decisions that commit them to Aaron Rodgers, such as bringing in Alan Lazard and Nathaniel Hackett, which could be okay moves on their own, but mostly signal that they're all in on the Rodgers experiment. It's hard to imagine them bringing in those guys and then settling for a different quarterback. So now we move to the argument that the Jets have the leverage. First of all, there's a lot of false information floating around about the Rodgers cap situation, so I took the liberty of doing hours of research to make a nice little summary chart for you guys. But before I show you the chart, none of this would have been possible without the help of Jason Fitzgerald from Over the Cap and his amazing explanation of the Rodgers cap situation on his podcast, website, and YouTube video. I'll link his video in the description, which contains a more expanded discussion of the cap implications. I'll also link a summarized spreadsheet below explaining how I reached these numbers, but for right now, here's what you need to know. Rodgers' contract covers from 2023 to 2026, but the last 2 years are basically fake years. So let's just focus on 2023 and 2024. For sake of a baseline, if Rodgers is kept on the roster, his cap hit, i.e. the amount he costs against the Packers cap, is $31.6 million in 2023 and $40.7 million in 2024. If Rodgers is traded before June 1st, 2023, his cap hit is $40.3 million in 2023. But he has no future cap hit, clearing tons of space for the Packers for the next few seasons. If Rodgers is traded after June 1st, 2023, the Packers have the option to split his dead cap into $15.8 million in 2023 and $24.4 million in 2024. This way, they give themselves a little bit more flexibility on their cap for 2023 at the expense of some cap space in 2024. But let's say that Rodgers isn't traded. If Rodgers is kept on the team in 2023, but traded in 24, Rodgers counts for $31.6 million in 23 and a whopping $68.2 million in 24. If he's kept on the team in 23 but retires in 24, he counts for $31.6 million in 2023, and then, in my estimation, he counts as a $24.2 million cap hit in the next 3 seasons each. If Rodgers is kept on the roster in 23 and 24, but retires in 25, Rodgers has his normal cap hits in 23 and 24, and then has a cap hit of $39.9 million in 25 and 26 each. So what do all these numbers mean? So if we're going to take Mark Murphy at his word and say that Jordan Love is the future, Rodgers needs to be traded in 2023. If he's not traded in 2023, depending on what happens next, they have long-term negative salary cap implications that hurt their ability to build around Jordan Love. It's also important to remember that Jordan Love's fifth-year option is worth $20.27 million and would count against the 2024 salary cap. Thus, if Rodgers is on the roster with Jordan Love, the best-case scenario for the Packers in 24 is that they have over $40 million in cap space tied to the two quarterbacks. In the worst-case scenario, they have almost $90 million in cap space allocated to the two quarterbacks. This is not even to mention the locker room implications of such a thing. Jordan Love will likely be pissed if Rodgers returns because he wants to play and he's been sitting on the bench for 3 years. Rodgers knows the Packers don't want him, and he can make their life very difficult by refusing to restructure. The last 2 years of his contract are not actually void years, and NFL players are typically required to consent to restructuring. This will make it very difficult to build a functional team around Jordan Love, to pick up his fifth-year option, and to extend him after that. This will likely also cause resentment between the quarterbacks themselves, between the management and Rodgers, and also make it difficult to win. And as you saw from the Jets in 2022, losing in quarterback drama is not good for the locker room. Deadlines spur action, and if the Packers want the Jets' 2023 first-round pick, they're going to have to make something happen before the draft. The popular theory right now is that the Packers are requesting a 2023 first-round pick, and the Jets are refusing to give it to them. Once the draft passes, that pick is no longer available. That means that the Packers want that pick, they're going to have to make the trade before that deadline. This gives some leverage to the Jets in the short term because it puts some pressure on the Packers to make a move. The last argument in favor of the Jets is that the Packers have no alternatives to trade Rodgers. No other team has shown a strong interest in trading Rodgers past just due diligence, and most teams have their quarterback situation decided already. The Packers risk the Jets getting fed up and moving on to something else, tying them up with salary cap issues, $60 million due in cash to Rodgers in 2023, not the salary cap number, 2 pissed off quarterbacks, and no suitors to trade for Rodgers. Although there's a no trade clause, no team will trade for Rodgers unless they get some type of assurance that he'll play for them. Even at that point, there are serious cap problems with the decision to take on Rodgers and his contract. The team who trades for him will take on massive salary cap hits from 2024 to 2026, as seen in this chart. The Packers have no choice but to either get a deal done or keep Rodgers, which they can't afford to do from both an organizational and financial standpoint. So after considering all of this, what is my opinion on who has the leverage? Nobody.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Probably think I'm a cop-out or maybe even a fool if you'd be so bold, but hear me out. It's clear that the Packers need Rodgers off the team and that the Jets are the only suitors. It's equally clear that the Jets need Rodgers on the team and there are no other options. What will happen? I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. But all we know right now is that if this deal isn't done, both teams are absolutely screwed. So boys, let's play nice and compromise a bit and get this shit done. I'm tired of watching my Jets lose every year.
Sanchez gets hit, the ball is loose, and it's alive.
I have never seen this before in my life. Watch this. Vince Wilfork is going to throw Brandon Moore back into his quarterback. He's going to fumble the football. This is what Reggie White used to do to people.